pressure to build around a quarterback?
I don't like that at all, Sal.
You don't?
No, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. And Jets fans, I can only imagine that y'all are starting to have a little bit of PTSD right now, hearing a defensive-minded head coach come in and not instantly prioritize the quarterback position. The Jets have recently had a head coach who's a phenomenal defensive mind, Todd Bowles. Just won the Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because of their defense, which Todd Bowles led. The Jets hired Todd Bowles when he was a phenomenal defensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. Todd Bowles coached my brother. I know that defense. I know Todd Bowles. Phenomenal DC goes to the Jets. Why didn't he succeed? Amongst other reasons, did not figure out the quarterback position. You go from Ryan Fitzpatrick to Josh McCown to Sam Darnold with no help and not a competent offensive staff around him. So Todd Bowles, although a brilliant defensive mind, did not succeed in New York because he didn't figure out the quarterback position. So if I'm Jets fans, the only thing I want to hear from my head coach, who is a brilliant defensive mind, is everything that has to do with focusing on the seriousness of the matter, which is quarterback. Brilliant defensive minds don't succeed because they don't handle quarterback. Vic Fangio, #1 defense with the Chicago Bears, 2018. That's when they got Khalil Mack, remember. He goes on to become the head coach of the Denver Broncos. They struggling. Why? Because they haven't figured out the quarterback position. When you figure out the quarterback position as a defensive coordinator, you thrive. But you better figure it out, and you better figure it out soon.
Well, I think this is an amazing move by Robert Saleh, at least in mindset, because he understands where he is. When you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. When you're a Jets coach, do what the Jets coaches did when they were a good squad. Remember when they went back-to-back to AFC Championship games? They had a quarterback by the name of Mark Sanchez, rookie quarterback, right? Did they build around him? No. He walked into a situation that was built for him. Think about it. And that was a defense that was ranked #1 and #3. AFC Championship game, AFC Championship game. We're talking about a defensive coordinator now in his first year as a head coach who has seen top 5 total defenses the last 2 years when he was a coordinator. So what he's trying to do is really duplicate what they did when they were good as the New York Jets football organization. Let's just build around them. We're not going to go get a top 5 quarterback because the fate of coaches that get top 5 quarterbacks is nothing to smile at right now. Since 2010, there have been 12 coaches, a dozen coaches to select a top 5 quarterback and have at least 3 years to see the results. Half of those coaches did not even survive year 2 after taking the quarterback. 8 of the 12 coaches didn't even make it to year 3. And we're talking about some good coaches here. Let's talk about Ken Whisenhunt when he got Marcus Mariota. Didn't work. Jeff Fisher with Jared Goff. Didn't last. Hugh Jackson with Baker Mayfield. Got to go, Hugh. Lovie Smith with Jameis Winston. Bye-bye. John Fox with Mitch Trubisky. They messed that all up. Todd Bowles with Sam Darnold, as you mentioned. Mike Shanahan with RG3. You know that. Spagnuolo with Sam Bradford. These top 5 quarterbacks come with these crazy expectations. And then these coaches are sitting there like, I'm not a horrible coach. This is just a horrible situation. We use all our assets pretty much in going to the top 5 when we could address other needs that supports quarterbacks in that position. Ask Mark Sanchez.
I'm going to ask you quickly to hold on to that list because I'm going to come back to it. I'm not here to disagree with you. I'm here to further this point.
I love it.
Offensive minds, Sel, they can survive. Offensive-minded head coaches survive because of their offensive mind.
Okay.
Defensive-minded head coaches historically only survive because of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Mike Tomlin, defensive-minded head coach, Hall of Fame quarterback Ben Roethlisberger. Bill Belichick, defensive-minded head coach, Hall of Fame quarterback Tom Brady. Pete Carroll, defensive-minded head coach, Hall of Fame quarterback Russell Wilson. Defensive-minded head coaches survive based off their Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Tony Dungy, defensive-minded head coach, Hall of Fame quarterback Peyton Manning. Offensive-minded head coaches, they survive because they're offensive minds. Jared Goff, Sean McVay. Jared Goff ain't no world beater now. He has Sean McVay. Doug Peterson, offensive-minded head coach. He had a combination of Nick Foles and Carson Wentz. Nick Foles and Carson Wentz, they my guys, they're brothers to me, but, they ain't no world beaters, at least not of late. But Doug Peterson, offensive mind. Andy Reid, he never won the Super Bowl with Donovan McNabb, but he went to Super Bowls with Donovan McNabb. Yeah. Not necessarily a world beater, although Donovan McNabb was a dude.
He was a dude.
But offensive-minded head coaches survive based on their offensive minds. Defensive-minded head coaches survive based on Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So Robert Saleh, I think, needs to survive based off putting all his eggs into developing and prioritizing his quarterback. The reason I bring up that list is because off the top of my head, as you were going, I was like, wait a second. Spagnuolo is a defensive-minded head coach. What was the name partnered with him?
Sam Bradford.
Sam Bradford. All these, like, all the names you said, I was like, wait a second. A lot of these were defensive-minded head coaches, and they didn't necessarily have the quarterback. So I think that serves your point, but it also serves a point of, hey, now, if you're a defensive-minded head coach, you better pay attention to this quarterback position because you're not going to survive based off your defensive mind. You're going to survive based off how great your quarterback is.
Well, to your point, Shanahan disagrees because he's an offensive-minded coach. I mean, tremendous, and didn't work out with RG3. To my point, Bill Belichick disagrees with you because he's like, give me pick 199 and I could do something. I'm a defensive-minded coach. Obviously, we know now Tom Brady's the GOAT. This is interesting, though. You got to go to a great situation. For any rookie quarterback, they don't want to say this outwardly, but they're thinking, I need to go somewhere with a running game, somewhere with a defense, because I need to adjust to the transition of the NFL level. So when you think about that, let's listen to these situations. Dak Prescott. We always talk about how the year before Dak Prescott was drafted, they were 4-12, right? Not a high pick either. But they went 13-3, and everybody's like, Dak. Yeah, but y'all forget they had the number 2 rushing offense and number 5 scoring defense. So that's a great situation. And he's not a top 5 pick. Russell Wilson, another guy, not a top 5 pick. 7-8 the year before. 11-5. Make the playoffs, Russell Wilson. Good job, Russell Wilson. Did y'all remember? Number 3 rushing offense, number 1 scoring defense. Okay, good situation. Andrew Luck, this is an interesting one because everyone thought the Colts were sorry. Nah, Peyton Manning was hurt, and they went 2-14. Next year, 11-5 because they basically had that squad. But they had made the playoffs 9 of the previous 10 seasons. RG3, bring it up again. 5-11 before RG3. Now, that's a top pick. Went 10-6, won the NFC East in his rookie season. But they also had the number 1 rushing offense, which he contributed to because of his legs. Last one is Ben Roethlisberger, you brought up. Steelers were 6-10 the year before Ben got there. 15-1, best record in the NFL rookie season. Number 2 rushing offense, number 1 scoring defense. Robert Saleh's like, look, I'm reading y'all history books. Not only the New York Jets history books of when Mark Sanchez was picked, you better have everything else around him. It's almost like bringing the main course after you have already supplied all that you need necessary on the table. I'm not just talking about condiments. I'm not just talking about appetizers. I'm not just talking about utensils. Everything, pots and pans. Then you can drop a number 5 pick in that situation or a top 5 pick. If not, he's going to be set up to fail.
Yeah, you really need both. Like, let's be real. Like, you really need both.
But which one first in priority? That's what Saleh's facing. Well, chicken and egg.
First in priority for me is, if I'm a defensive-minded head coach, I got to make sure my quarterback and my offensive coordinator are on point.
Yeah.
The final 8 coaches in the NFL last year as far as in the playoffs, right? So the final 8 coaches that were remaining, 6 were offensive minds. Mm-hmm. 1 was a special teams mind in John Harbaugh, and 1 was Sean McDermott. But remember, Sean McDermott, his second year gets Brian Daboll, University of Alabama, phenomenal offensive mind, helps develop Josh Allen, and now because you have Josh Allen, who is playing like a beast, plus you have a phenomenal mind as your OC, y'all are hanging with a group filled with offensive coordinators. The reason DCs don't make it very far, defensive coordinators make it very far in the NFL, they don't realize the quarterback position is incredibly important. You don't know how to empathize with that position because you never played that position. You were always trying to attack quarterbacks. So all of a sudden, you got your quarterbacks in live drills in practice because you don't realize, wait a second, that is the most important position on the field. If you don't handle your QB, bro, as a defensive-minded head coach, I don't see a long fate for you.
Boy, that's funny you said that. The defensive coordinators turn head coach. They'd be like, hey, we're going to toughen up our quarterback. I'm like, what do you mean? He pork chops today? Let's eat. All right, but be real. I don't agree with that. I think it's a good generalization, but I don't think it's specific enough. I think Robert Saleh is looking at guys who have succeeded as defensive coordinators or defensive minds. He's like, I'm doing that. Mark Sanchez, I bring it up again. They went to the AFC Championship game consecutive years, back to back. Mark Sanchez threw 12 touchdowns and 20 picks his first year, and then said, I'm going to improve. 17 touchdowns and 13 picks, which is an improvement, but that ain't AFC Championship leading numbers. You know what it is? That defense, that running game. Saleh's like, I'm going to do that. The number 2 pick the last 2 years have been what position? Defensive lineman. Chase Young last year, number 2 pick. You know that the Washington football team made the playoffs because they got a defensive lineman, not a quarterback. And then the 49ers the year before that, Nick Bosa, number 2 pick. They made the playoffs, not because they went after a quarterback. So the thing is, I think Robert Saleh is really zigging when everyone else is zagging. It almost sounds like you're trying to please the fan base. Quarterback. But then Robert Saleh's like, but where's the success? Especially here as the Jets. It's looking around and addressing other needs, especially in recent history.
But don't you think going defense and all these other things and non-prioritizing quarterback, it'll get you close, but it won't necessarily get you over the hill? Because even your point, Mark Sanchez, who is my dog, like that's my close friend, so I can't even clown Sanchez. That's my guy.
No, that's the people you do clown, the ones you're closest with. They can handle it.
He did clown me yesterday. The other day. I hate him, but I love him.
Get him.
Nonetheless, they got close, but they didn't get over the hump.
Facts.
Like they was close 2 years in a row, but you wonder, maybe if you would have prioritized it a little bit more.
More than him? He was a top five pick. Where you want to go? Number one overall?
But you think that Rex do enough to help develop him, right? Like, because you know how big a defensive-minded Rex is.
I can't.
Like, Rex don't even care about offense. Just when you hear him talk, when you hear sound bites. Maybe if you would have done a little bit more, been more focused on developing that, who knows just how far he could have went. I guess we'll see if it works out for the Jets.